A very good evening to our viewers. Thank you for joining us on this edition of The Agenda. My name is Nguherimo. Tonight on the platform we are joined by Jephta Nguherimo. He is an activist in the space of reparations, of course emanating from the genocide that the German Imperial Germany actually committed against Namibian communities. We are here to discuss that landmark decision by the UN General Assembly around reparations for slave trade, or reparations for slave trade. And Jephta is here to see if that can also fit into the agenda that he's been fighting for so long. Thank you, my brother Jephta, for making time. It's been a minute. We have spoken before on the same subject, but welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, wonderful, my brother. So the UN General Assembly last week overwhelmingly backed a resolution declaring the transatlantic slave trade as the gravest crime against humanity.
Yes.
And we have been talking for the longest of times in our country about the genocide against Nguherimo and Nama people, also to be the first of its kind for the is it
20th century.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the wording is almost the same. Just your take first on that resolution of the UN.
That's a very landmark resolution, and I'm very, very delighted that the UN finally adopted that resolution. It has been quite a work that has been going on at the ground. I remember in 2022, I was in Ghana as for the panel conference discussing about this very resolution from the previous president of Ghana, who had spearheaded this resolution. Yeah. And then a second meeting in Ghana again in Accra. And then, of course, after that, the first thing they did, they took it to the African Union. Mm-hmm. And then at this time, the Ghanaian president introduced to the United Nations. And it was overwhelmingly received. 193 countries voted for it. Mm. And most, if not all, European countries abstained. Yeah. And of course, the three countries that voted against it, the United States, Israel, and Argentina. So, I'm not surprised about that, and I'm sure you're not surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is a landmark vote, and it means it cemented the history, the gravity of the slavery in the national, especially this United Nations body.
Yeah.
And so, although the resolution itself characterizes the gravest crime against humanity, it didn't follow up with the reparations. Yeah. But as you heard from our presidents and others, they demanded reparations because United Nations cannot enforce or force other countries to pay reparations. So this is a very historic and very meaningful, and according to the comments from people who have been affected by slavery, such as African Americans, they were very overwhelmed with emotions that finally the issues has been recognized at that level.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. When you said you're not surprised by the fact that 52 countries abstained from that process, including the United Kingdom and other EU member states, why does that not surprise you?
It's not surprised because they were actually the one who benefited from slavery. They all engaged in the practice of slavery. Yeah. So they know the implication of that resolution, that if they have supported it, then the consequences or the expectations to engage in reparation talk. So the best way is to abstain it, not to oppose it, but just to stay silent. So that's why. And United States, of course, they objected with their reasons because it's as you know, the African American population in the United States as a result of slavery. So of course they will oppose it. And for Israel, has always done what the United States done. And Argentina was a surprise for me, like why, but I don't know their political reasons for them to oppose it. But yeah, Europeans, we don't expect much from them, but at least they are saying they didn't vote against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for Argentina, and I'm just speculating really, that Javier Milei, their current president, is a far-right guy.
Yeah.
Very close to Donald Trump and the Israeli regime there. So maybe
the friendship that has
exactly.
Yeah.
Do we know whether Namibia was at all involved in this process?
Namibia was voted for the resolutions. They supported it overwhelmingly. And the president also, I missed the first part of the speech, but in support of the resolutions, also she strongly made a strong statement suggesting that reparations must be paid to must be paid. So she emphasized the importance of the resolution as well as the legal consequences of this country to pay reparations. But I have not read the speech the ambassador presented at the United Nations. But they were part of it. I mean, countries are very funny in the sense that they're politically unpredictable, because in the sense that most of these meetings, when they were taking place in Ghana, preliminary, when I was in Ghana, the Namibian were offered a table at one of the conferences when the current international minister of relations was there. And she didn't attend the meeting, nor did she send a representative. But now that she has assumed the role of Minister of International Relations, I'm talking about Selma Mushiva Ashipala, and she had issued a strong support for reparations, especially in particular also in Namibia, and colonialism and genocide. And so did the president, the current president, when she was elected. She strongly issued a strong statement. But their words do not match what they are doing on the ground. They still continue to engage Germany to pay these development projects in lieu of reparations and restitutions. So it is a very ambiguous and ambivalent policy. And so far, they have not been publicly explain themselves as to what is the next approach. From what I heard, the president summoned some people, or some people visited them, and she basically said the deal is done with Germany. But that is in contrary to what we hear from this conservative German government that is not I'm not interested in this issue of reparations or even development projects for that matter. So it's unclear where the next political move is for the current administration of Nadi Daitwa, what they're going to do.
Yeah. Do we know how the Germans voted or acted at the UN General Assembly around this subject?
They all abstain. All the European countries abstain.
Okay. Now, you spoke about our government's attitude towards this whole subject, especially our fight against the Germans. I remember President Nadine Daitwa, I think she was vice president when she made the remarks. I remember vividly she was speaking to a congregation of traditional leaders in Windhoek. And at the time she was saying, this is a huge battle, and maybe we must rethink our stance and essentially take what is on the table, because there's no guarantee that the subsequent governments of Germany will actually continue to offer that. And you just spoke about the conservatives that are in charge now. What in hindsight, when you reflect on that, do you think maybe she was making sense, or the position remains the same?
No, she wasn't making sense at all. Because what I'm saying is like when you negotiate a bilateral agreement, in the case of Namibia, they put within the Ministry of International Relations, with Foreign Ministry, they put a line budget allocated right now. It has been going on for years, $50 million in the line budget as part of these development projects. So the conservative government, and it has been in the line in that budget for 4 years now, but it has not been. It has been ignored because they can do that. So the current government, the previous government, ignored that line budget, meaning that they didn't fund it, and the current government they still ignore that line budget because they are not funding it, and so the AFD, the most right-wing conservative government in Germany, they can even ignore it or remove it from their budget if they take over. So it's no guarantee that even if we had accepted that at the time, it will be continued funded because it's not a law or it's not a legal requirement. It is just a gesture that they put it in the budget. So she was kind of playing with words and politics at the time. And so there's nothing like that in Germany too. It has to be entrenched within their constitution, and it has to be, even if they don't do that, they have to, the issue of genocide, or genocide must be cemented within the Bundestag so that we can have even a political leverage to say, or the opposition can say, you can fund this. But right now, it's just the agreement between the two governments. The former president, the late president, Dr. Hagen Keiko, he moved to, he's no longer here with us, and now the new president. So it's the same. It's just any government can get rid of this. And if we had agreed, there was no guarantee that this is going to be funded. So it was just a political gimmick from our current president, Nandi Daitwa.
Yeah. Do you think, so what must happen to lock in that commitment? Because you are right in saying that if there's nothing that sort of compels successive German governments, I mean, their offer, which I find ridiculous, also talks about a timeline of 30 years.
Yeah.
Even if you reduce that by half and say do it over a period of 15 years, there's no guarantee that it will be the same government that will be in power during that period.
Yes.
So what must happen to lock it in so that subsequent governments are obliged to do that?
I mean, there is an international framework for negotiating around issue of genocide. There's like, we have legal minds and they know what they have to do. But if you try to negotiate outside that international framework, then you put yourself at the mercy of another government to do what they want to do. So they have to go back to the drawing board. Like they have been demanding, as I said, the Minister of International Relations, Ms. Honorable Selma Mushiva Ashipala, have advocated for reparations, meaning that they know what the frameworks are. And so those are frameworks that they have to resort to, even if the current government say that they're not going to do that. For example, what I heard from reliable sources is when the Namibian government wanted to negotiate about reparations, basically the German government told them, now, if you're talking about reparations, then we are done, no more discussions. But if you're talking about development assistance, then we can talk. So then they move towards the development assistance. So there is that they have to follow certain. They can even abandon the process, but they shouldn't abandon what they have negotiated in terms of, let's say, the monetary assistance. But the process need to be readjusted so that it can reflect the spirit of international framework of genocide and how to negotiate. And what you have to understand is like the Ghanaian president introduced slavery was colonialism and slavery. So they have, most people in West Africa, they have experienced that slavery. And we have experienced colonialism and genocide and apartheid. And remember many years ago, apartheid was considered as a crime against humanity. Remember that, right? So our government can do the same. We can also negotiate a genocide in the framework of genocide as opposed to development assistance or development projects, because that framework of development assistance is already there between the two governments. So this has to be a separate issue that needs to be discussed. negotiated outside of the framework. And the only thing you ask me a question, what can be done with the Namibian government, is to go back to the people who initiated the issue and to go back to the resolution of 2006. It is there. It's basically the parliament told the executive what they have to do, but then the executive branch hijacked the negotiation and then move it in the direction that it's not supposed to go. So that's why there's a political wedge between the current government and the communities that were affected by the genocide. And so this is why we call that we have to re-engage. And from what I have seen, our current president is not interested in engaging with the community directly on this issue. And but she's good at using a political word to appear that she's fighting for reparations.
Yeah. The I mean, what has been offered by the Germans, and in light of the fluctuations in political fortunes of that country and ours, indeed, because we also don't know who will take over next from this administration, whether and which political party will even be, it be, and whether they will have appetite for this subject at all. Do you think that offers like the one that is on the table now, that joint declaration, the monetary content of that agreement, of course I know there are also differences, people saying the quantum is a joke, but if there was no issue around the quantum, would you prefer that money get paid once off so that you avoid any potential fluctuations in the future?
I understand your question, that you are forcing me from my original position. But I ask you one question, assuming that they say 1.1 billion euro, which is translated in probably 22 billion euros. And this is why I say, why do you have to tell us that you're going to give us in piecemeal, meaning 50? So if you give us that money at once, then we are smart enough to put that money in investment and to quadruple with interest, isn't it? If you imagine translating $22 billion interest, if we put it somewhere, then we can even pay ourselves $100 million a year, or not paying in such, but we can finance the ventures for the Namibians and the communities that were affected more than giving us that money in piecemeal. Why is it that you have to tell us that you're going to give us over 15 years? It's just a control and power. And it's the same mechanism of development assistance, that you come for loans, you go back. You get 30 million from Germany, you come back for it. I mean, these loans we get. So my advocacy, if that was the case, I would say, give us the money at once, then we can invest, and then we can pay ourselves from interest over many, many periods of time. So that's my position on that. But this current issue of us going to Germany and beg them for so-called $50 million every year is kind of a joke and an insult to our leaders and insult to those who perished during the genocide.
I've always asked this question, Jephta, around this imbalance of power between Namibia and Germany. You are talking about Germany as the leading European economy, strong in every aspect. We are a tiny country. We can't even threaten them with sanctions or militarily or anything like that. Are we relying on the goodwill of the Germans for us to get what we want? Or what power do we possess actually to get what we want from these bargaining conversations?
When this issue started 24 years ago, it was started with the lone voice of Kwai Mariwako. And the people came, and the government joined, the parliament passed a resolution, and the German government reacted. That was a political pressure, right? We didn't use any military or even radical language to force Germany to move, but we used the moral persuasion for them to do the right thing. So the avenues are closed, very many. And like the African Union, this resolution with Ghana took to United Nations. It took mobilization of resources. It took mobilization of the states, African states in 193 countries to support that resolution. So it is the same strategies that could be used. We have not even engaged with South Africa or neighbor. We have not even engaged with Botswana, our own government, or even Angola for that matter, to say, like, can we bring this up some with Germany or to force it? So we have not sought international alliance or solidarity. So if we seek it, we are going to get it. If our government was so quick to join the case of the Palestinian people to side with South Africa, why is it so reluctant, even to us, a friendly country, to file a case at International Court of Justice? And you know, Germany withdrew their support for that case against Israel at the ICJ. Why? Because of the political pressure, not the military threat.
Yeah.
So we have those resources, but our government is afraid or reluctant or unwilling or uninterested in engaging with other countries around the subject of the genocide, let alone that. So it is something that can be done. We do have the political capital, political power, and we do have the people on the ground to put pressure on the German government. They have a sizable population in Namibia. And so I'm sure those factors that we can influence, because they want to maintain that political relationship with us.
You mentioned late President Hage Geingob just recently in your remarks, and he was the same guy who said there's really no value that you can realistically place on what has transpired.
Yes.
Human life, you can't buy human life. And then his spokesperson at the time, Dr. Nguherimo, was saying it is a symbolic victory by the affected communities and the Namibian community at large to have forced the Germans to arrive to the content of that joint declaration. What is enough? What is it if we say that which has been offered is a joke? What is enough?
You know, when you look at the communities that have been affected by the genocide, I can tell you that what is enough. I mean, I had a conversation with 25 activists, prominent scholars, and we look at how reparations will look like to them. And a lot of people think that it's money in our pocket. But I give you this, listen, see, there is not even a mention of money in our pocket.
Yeah.
We are talking about education. We are talking about land and restorative justice. We are talking about economic development. So we are seeking money, but for us to restore and to our community to the level they're supposed to be. And when you're talking about the communities, we are so multicultural society. And even in Okakara now, formerly 900% of our hero areas, I think it's now 40% heroes others. So if we build a clinic, or not a clinic, a school in Okakara, don't tell me that 100% of those kids will be over Herero. Nothing like that in Namibia. Or even if you build in Korihas, if you build in the south. So we want to determine our own destiny, how to restore, which we talk about restitution and our own community. And we know we're talking about education, where there's still a gap in the education system curriculum about the coverage of this subject.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a little subject of that, but we are not happy with the way it is covered or the way it has been written. And we recently with the Honorable former Honorable Minister Usumambiro, we engaged with the Department of Education to see, like, have you follow up on these parliamentary resolutions to look at improve the curriculum?
Yeah.
But they say no, that's enough. But we are not finished. We are still engaging with them. So we are looking at education. We are looking at let's say the government biofarms around former reservation area and give it to me or you.
Yeah.
What does it have? Why can't you expand this former reservation area and so that people can move, the grazing area can improve? So we have a way to restore our community, but the way it is dictated by the German and Namibian government that we need to build clinics, it's unacceptable.
Yeah.
Because we don't need a clinic in certain places. We have to identify our own. What is enough is when Germany accept accountability, acknowledge, and commit to pay reparations, and not to tell us what is suitable for us to restore our own community.
Absolutely. We go for a very short break and return shortly to continue this lively conversation. The conversation continues on the agenda. Now, my brother, on that subject of the quantum, I still want you to address me properly, because you can decide what it is as a community and say, no, for us, we want this reparation to come in the form of the restoration of land or whatever. But that costs money. So there ought to be some sort of amount to say, for this to be achieved, we would need this much. So how much is it?
I'm not an economist, but I have seen people throwing numbers, and I am not comfortable throwing numbers because we cannot, the cost of human lives is very difficult to quantify.
Yeah.
However, I also can say, if you look at the land, our ancestral land we have lost, and the conditions of our people, that can be quantified by people who are experts on that. We have not done that. The Namibian government has not done that. We as researchers, as activists, have not done that, but we speculate. And as I said, if you give us $22 billion in our pocket now and we invest it, we can do a lot of things with it.
Yeah.
So if you give a $30 billion, whatever it is, we can do a lot with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you, your concern is not very much against. You're not totally against what has been put on the table, but the manner in which is proposed now to reach the community over a period of time and all that. Is that sort of your contention?
On this particular issue, I do know that $50 million a year to the community is an insult.
Yeah, but the quantum itself in the JD.
In the JD is $50 million a year. Yeah, and so it's insulting. And I know from the cost of things, the $50 million you cannot build a bridge, a clinic, as well as buy land back in Namibia. You know, the farms now cost $10 million, an average good farm cost. So that money will be gone in a minute. It is insulting in terms of the $50 million a year for this issue. This as part of the quantum is very insulting.
But is that already? Are we saying that the disbursements from what has been agreed in that joint declaration they have already started? That 50 million is part of that, or is that just part of the development aid that the Germans have always been sort of giving to us?
Yeah, when the German proposed reached the joint declaration, they put $50 million, because that's what they negotiated with the Namibian Technical Committee. They put that $50 million, I think it's 50, 60, correct me, as a line item budget within the foreign ministry. It comes up every year, 2022, 2023, 24, or 6 years now. It's in the budget. That's what they have proposed. Maybe they're hoping to be funded. So it's not the 1.2 billion euros that we are talking about. And as to how they reduce it to how many years, I think it's 23 now, 23 years. But still, why
Where does it go? That budget item, is it destined for
It
what?
has not been funded.
It has not been
It
funded.
has not been funded. It's there, but it has not been approved within their budget.
Yeah.
So I don't know where they go, and I don't know even with these members of the government who negotiate, where do they get the money from to travel? Maybe they get it from Germany, or where do they draw it? It's up to them. But the issue of $50 million, you particularly must know, like $50 million cannot even buy 2 farms in Namibia anymore.
Yeah.
Oh,
If the Germans, for some reason, were now putting that money forth to say, okay, I mean, we don't agree and all that, but let's assume that that line item is now satisfied with, putting the money there. Once it's in the kitty, what must happen? Who must decide where it goes? And
That's a question that they are working on, and it's a very secretive negotiation from our part. I mean, I don't blame the government most of the time. The Germans, I blame our own government. Very secretive around these issues. The people don't really engage much with the community. I have been here for 6 months, and I have not seen any single member of the technical committee. Whenever I try to invite them or have engaged with them, they disappear. And so it's a very secretive process. That how do you distribute? How even on earth are you going to distribute this? And mind you, in the subsequent negotiation, they said that diaspora people are covered. When you're talking about the diasporians, you are talking about people from Botswana, South Africa, and wherever they are. But Namibian government has not engaged with the Botswana government nor South Africa. So how are you going to allocate money to the diasporians if you don't have that communication or they are not at the table to be represented? So it's just like a whitewash negotiation. It's very poorly conceived negotiation. What my idea is, like, the parliament should revisit this issue of Namibia. They must revisit this issue instead of asking questions, where are we with this issue, so that it can be back. And unless the government representative must be also involved in this negotiation along with the leaders of the affected community.
Yeah.
The executive branch, which means the president and these international, have failed us completely.
Is anyone listening? Because I remember that clarion call to say the matter must revert back to Parliament. There was, I don't remember who it was last year who tried to bring it up in Parliament, and it was quashed completely.
Yeah.
They were told to not, or was it? Yeah, I think last year. And the subject was sort of just pushed under the carpet there, which makes me wonder if anyone at all in the positions of authority are listening to what the demands of the actual people are saying.
I have come to believe that the Parliament recently, Honorable Kantorodu and Venani asked, what's the status of this? And they were told that this issue is very sensitive, and if you have questions, you should put it in writing and it's be sent to relevant authorities. And that was it. Yeah. And those are 2 members of Parliament that brought this issue up. So I don't see that our Parliament is sort of weak in terms of, like, in the oppositions. SWAPO really doesn't really have high regard for them. So, but it needs to be taken back to the Parliament, which is the House of the People, even if it's weak, so that we can revisit the issue. Like, this failed completely. I had a meeting in Germany via online with Dr. Melba, sponsored by the Green Party at the Bundestag. And the question, and the Green Party were part of the previous government, they said the joint declaration have stalled, failed. So they were asking the question at the table was, how can we restart or re-engage?
Yeah.
Is it to get rid of the joint declaration, or should we follow the steps? And that was very interesting from the German scholars and academics and activists who called for total revamping of the whole issue and engage with the people who are affected. I mean, the issue that killed this negotiation is the process, lack of engaging members of the affected community, and also making a deal without their consent, and especially also making a bad deal as is. It's a poor negotiation. I've been a negotiator for 20 years. I'm not saying that I have to be in this, but this is very poor for you to put money on the table and say that you will get it over a period of 23 years or 30 years. Why?
Yeah. In your engagement with the German scholars and researchers, what do they tell you as far as the attitude of this current government of Germany is towards this thing? Are they entertaining these conversations at all? Have they ever discussed it at any platform?
The last time I heard, that was a few months ago, and my core activists and scholars, they said this is done. The joint declaration is dead. If the Namibian government is talking about it, it may be to keep us busy that they're talking about it, but from the perspective of this current government, is dead. They are not entertaining it. In fact, not only the joint declaration, because the previous government had the issue of they were funding or they were engaged in German colonial project, like the issue of Tanzania and Cameroon. So they were interested in that. So the new government basically killed that initiative of German to engage with its colonial past, not only in Namibia. So that's the biggest thing that they have to, most of the program have been defunded. So that we are talking about this conservative. But then we have the AFD, which is the extreme right wing. And they got a lot of people in the parliament in Bundestag. So if by any chance they win the election, then the issue of the joint declaration is dead. And that's the leader, one of the parliamentarians, the guy who came to Swakopmund and put wreath flowers on the soldiers of the Germans in Swakopmund. And there was very little outcry in Namibia, but that's the level of arrogance of the Germans. And I don't think that they even respect the Namibian government on this issue at all.
So if that is the attitude that the Germans have adopted lately, I mean, what options do we have then? What are the avenues? Because the matter remains unresolved.
The matter remains, I mean, a problem with me, I'm a product of under-apartheid movement, where people used to organize for nothing. And so, this is my work as a labor activist in the United States. We start with 2 people and then you have 100 people. So as long as you activate the minds of the people and the demands, someone is going to, the option is there, engage, agitate, organize, and the issue will come up. And as I said, this landmark resolution introduced by Ghana has been not necessarily because of the Ghanaian government, because of the Caribbean, CARICOM, Caribbean governments, and the Afro-Americans and African-Americans progressive institution lobbying, working with the Ghanaian government to introduce these resolutions. So we have many options to lobby, just the way we lobby for our independence during our struggle of independence. People said, like, but you're small, Namibia is small. You just wait until South Africa is independent. No, but we did it. We achieved the independence just with the minimal resources we have. And the people inside never really rested, they agitated. So the people of our Hero communities, they are still going to this next Friday, they're going to Shark Island. They're going to other places. So we still have the memory and we still have the spirit to carry on the struggle. And as long as we have the spirit to carry the struggle, Germany one day will relent and do the right thing.
Yeah. This UN resolution now is I mean, the fact that the EU abstained from that process. As a matter of fact, okay, first and foremost, it's not legally binding, although it is symbolically
important.
A very, very important resolution. The fact that it's not legally binding is a challenge. But secondly, the UN itself is hardly taken serious by its members lately. I mean, if you look at the war in Israel or everywhere, it's done. These things are being done by trampling on the resolutions, even binding ones.
Yes.
So is it really a major thing if people can say, yes, whatever, but who is the UN and stuff like that?
Well, the UN is still, I mean, I agree with you, is weak, it's becoming weaker because it's being trapped there. But it's an institution that has been there for over 50 years now, 40, 50 years. And so, but it's still a very important body for these smaller countries to engage in international politics, even though they're not respected. I'm sure one day, maybe one day, United States will have a better president. I mean, and who may respect. Others have been there, who respect and funded the UN. So at a certain point, it's going to be reformed. So this is the only platform we have right now. So even if it's not respected, this is the African Union platform we have, even though the Europeans will feel like those are Africans. We have a platform of SADC, still weak. Inherently, we are coming from a very disadvantaged position because we are small countries coming together, but we don't. But it is still the institution we have. And we can always use the leverage of, because it's still, even though it's weak, it's highly respected body. So if I'm sitting down with any person and referring to United Nations resolution on human rights and all those stuff, it still carries weight because it has to be respected, and many countries adopted that human rights resolution. So we cannot let it go, and that's the only mechanism we have, and we have to use what we can. And so is the International Court of Justice. So what we can do, if the Namibian government was serious, they can ask a friendly country to take the court case of Nguherimo and Nama people to International Court of Justice, because they have already made statements, acknowledge the genocide, even though they acknowledge it in the context of the past. Or we, as a community also, we may ask a friendly country like Burkina Faso to take it to International Court of Justice. It's just a matter of resources and organization.
There's been, here locally, there's been also divisions insofar as the approach should be. There are those who think government must step away and let the affected communities lead that process. And then the Germans have been telling us, prior to this new government of Germany, the previous government has been saying they only negotiate government to government. They don't negotiate with communities directly because there's a representative government in those countries and whatnot. What is your attitude towards how the method should be?
That there's two things here. This negotiation is not happening out of vacuum. Like it's come from somewhere. It's a directive from the motion of 2006, and it is specifically directed the Namibian executive branch to engage with Germany. And once it engaged, to open up a negotiation, and it's going to be as a government will be as an interested party, and then negotiate. The affected community will be directly negotiating with them. So what Germany is doing is like, you pass a resolution, but we don't respect that resolution because we only negotiate with tribes. So basically, it's told the Namibian parliament, like, to hell with whatever you negotiate. We are going to negotiate with whoever we want to negotiate. So that's a direct affront of Germany and show of lack of respect towards the Namibian parliament. So if we follow the framework of the parliament, then it's clear and standard. I mean, it's set. But if we try to deviate from that, then we will start listening to Germany saying that, oh, you guys are divided. Oh, you guys are like tribes. They killed tribes in the first place. So why are you not negotiating with me? Or why are you not even willing for me to be at the table to hear what you're being negotiated? And why did the Namibian government even agree to that framework of negotiation? Because they were hoping to get a quick deal and quick bugs, which it's not happening and it's not going to happen now.
I mean, government's position for a long time has been that, you know, the affected communities are represented in these committees, the envoys and technical committees, and therefore that the issue of representation is actually covered. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, I tell you that before independence, when South Africa was doing this stuff, they pick up people from the DTA and said, like, this is a representative umbrella, and they went on and on with it.
Yeah.
And people knew the reality that they were not representative umbrella. And so, SWAPO is not new to this. And basically, he's trying to play the pick a South African apartheid playbook and say, let's do the same. So if I feel represented by my own government or by this so-called technical committee, why am I not happy with it? Because they have been secretive. This is an issue of public interest, not only to Nguherimo, not only to the Nama, Damara, San, or Wambo, or Donga, whatever it is. It's a public interest. It has to be transparent. Everybody has to know. Keeping it secret and us fighting also is a way of pitting Nguherimo, Nama against other groups. Like, oh, they want this. They have been offered money. No.
Yeah.
It's a public interest. The genocide affected the community. And it affected Namibia. We are 3 million people today, not by chance, but by design German colonialism, as well as their apartheid policies that inhibited economic progress. So this system of, what is it? The rules of the games are there. But the Namibian government is not interested in engaging. I mean, of course, the former late president and Pohamba, I'm not blaming only President Daito, but President Daito has been very evasive, ambivalent to engage. And because, on this issue, I can say she's completely hiding from the public and not clear. And she has been like that consistent as a prime minister, as a foreign minister, as a prime minister as well.
But because she was a foreign minister, do you think that, she's a seasoned diplomat, if you like.
Yeah.
But those remarks that she made, I think, in 2024 that I mentioned, was it not for a foresight of someone who knows how things can turn out to be? Because her message really, she wasn't saying it word for word, but her message essentially was to say, look, take that offer, lock it in, because we do not know what the future holds. And now came this new regime in Germany, and it sort of vindicates her, because those guys seem to want nothing to do with this kind of conversations, and the whole thing is stalled.
When she said that statement, take the offer, the last sentence in the joint declaration said, that once this is agreed upon, signed, the heralds and Nama will never speak or demand future reparations. So she was speaking a double standard. Like here she negotiated something that says this is closed, and here she's saying that take it and then we can do something better later. Out of what framework?
No, I think she was not saying that afterwards there will be further demands. She was saying, as per the terms of that agreement, it's there now, take it now, because we do not know how future German governments will react to this whole thing. So while it's on the table, take it. Obviously, the nature of those kind of agreements is that once you accept, it ends there.
The nature of those agreements, once you accept the end, you're right. But what I'm trying to tell you is, like, why is it that only the Namibian government took this joint declaration to the parliament, and the German side never took this joint declaration to the Bundestag? Because to them, it was just a bilateral agreement, meaning that the foreign minister can. So why is it that necessary for us to force it to our parliament if it was just an agreement? They could easily, right now, close that deal based on the bilateral agreement. The only fear is there's no buy-in from the communities.
Yeah.
And the Germans were afraid, like, what are we this paying for if the communities are not happy? So they could simply close the deal if they want to. But it doesn't mean anything unless this joint declaration, or whatever it is what you call, is cemented in the Bundestag.
Yeah.
Just the way the Jewish and the Holocaust is cemented. You know that the German parliament has recognized the Holocaust, has recognized the Armenian genocide that happened after us, has recognized the Scindian Roma, have recognized the killing of I think the Hungarians from as 4 of them, but they have not recognized or acknowledged or cemented the heroic genocide within their parliament, the Bundestag. Why?
It's a fair question. It's really a fair question, because some people think there's also an ethno-supremacist kind of attitude, that these are white from Europe and therefore their lives are worse than ours, which is insulting. But the question is legitimate. Will we, in closing, Jephta, will we ever reach a point here locally where there is consensus from the affected communities, whether it's in terms of who represents the communities on some of these committees, but even on issues like, the quantum eventually, how it must be used? Because now, if I go to the Nguherimo community, for example, there are 2 men, both of them are claiming to be paramount chiefs. If Kashirwa sends someone to this committee, the Hode people will say, yeah, but that one doesn't represent our aspirations, and stuff like that. Do you think cementing?
No, I do understand, but the thing that it is, there is not, if you do the polls, there was never a single Herero or Nguherimo or Nama or anybody who has been affected by this genocide or come from that community that disagree on reparations from Germany.
Yeah.
The Kashiwas and Hode, they have their own political differences that is not cemented in the genocide struggle. Even between the 2 of them, if you ask them about the issue of genocide, they will never say, I'm against reparations. So that possibility exists. But what will bring us together is more what we call a consultative conference that the 2006 motion called. And I have called on the president and many other people that that unless there is a consultative conference to discuss the way we discuss the land issue and to try to come to a consensus about the way forward, they will always be remaining apart. But I'm always hopeful that maybe the next president or even the current president maybe will change heart of mind and say, like, let me engage with my people. Let me engage them. Let me face them. What is it what they want? This issue can be resolved next week.
Absolutely.
And have like a unified position. But if you remain hiding and lecturing people what they need to take it or leave it, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And we have waited for this for over 100 years, and we are not that desperate for German money. We are only desperate to get justice. And the government can delay our path to justice, but in the end, we are going to prevail.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wana.
Thank you.
Okweb.
Okay.
That is Jephta
Nguherimo.
speaking to us tonight on the agenda about reparations. A very important conversation for the country. Thank you for watching.